All right, and then there's macrophobia. Macrophobia is the fear of waiting. So if you're ever in McDonald's and you're standing in line and somebody just flips out, macrophobia. But I have been plagued with one phobia called glossophobia, which is commonly known as stage fright, or the fear of public speaking. But what complicated it is that I was a stutterer. So as a child, I was stuttering. And if you've ever seen my cousin Vinny or a fish called Wanda, right, you know stutters just take a beating. And I wasn't a typical hacker. Like I was a blocker. So blockers typically can't say a word they need to say, which could be very embarrassing, especially on your name. And it's happened to me many, many, many times. So somebody would say, "What's your name?" I could say, "Paul." And then they'd be like, "Come on, you can do it. Come on, give me an H. Come on." And I feel like I'm playing charades or something. And how do these phobias affect us? They drain us. Throughout my whole life, right, I was plagued by this phobia. I wanted to be a drummer when I was young, when I was 5 or 6, and I had stage fright. I couldn't be a drummer. In high school, I got drafted into a speech class. And I was in there for 10 minutes. Literally, we started on one to go through the rows to say your name and who you were. And I left to go to the bathroom, never to show back up. You know, in college, I was an architecture student. I always wanted to compete, but I was afraid to compete. And I know I could have won or at least placed. Getting my license as an architect, the 10th board exam is an oral exam. It took me 20 years before I got the nerve to do that. Throughout my whole life, when I wanted to do toasts for my daughter's, birthdays or weddings or whatever it is, I couldn't give a toast. And it just, so a fear, you see, it's different than a phobia, because a fear, it's like you're handcuffed with one hand. So you can still move and do what you got to do. But a phobia is different. See, phobia, it's both handcuffs behind your back, and you're trapped, and you're stuck. And that's what phobias do to you. So, and I tried everything. I mean, when I was 17, I started TM, and I learned to sit there in a lotus position and relax, and God, I love to let this flower of the universe, it is very beautiful, and I tried speech therapy, and I tried NLP, and I studied psychology, which was my minor. And I even did so much research on behavior, psychology, all these things that could make us change our behavior. In fact, I put together 700 index cards. This was like 25 years ago. 700 index cards with all this research, all these different articles and from doctors and medical examiners and everything else that, what is it that I am missing? What is it that I can't do here? I went to a retreat, and I was talking to a Zen master. And I walked up to him and I said, "You gotta help me. I've done all these things. How can I get rid of this fear of public speaking?" So he looks at me and he says, "Daniel-san." No. It's Paul. It's Paul. "Paulie-san." No. I'm sorry. Just Paul. Just Paul. "Hey, just Paulie-san." "You remind me of a young man come to me many years ago. He have very bad fear of sleeping at night because he feared the space under his bed. And every time he thought, something under his bed. And he spent thousands of dollars looking through psychologists and psychiatrists, and he come to me. And I said, Really? So what did you tell him? He says, "Excuse me, I'm talking here." So I only tell this man one thing, and one thing only. I say, to get rid of this fear, you need to cut the legs off from the bed. And it dawned on me, cut the legs off from the bed, right? Eliminate the space. Because that is the space in our mind, that dark space where our fears fester and grow, and we can't move because of that. Get rid of the space. See, I had all the technology. I had the techniques. I knew the psychology. But how do you get rid of that space? Do what it is you fear. If you fear snakes, go touch a garden snake. If you fear spiders, play with a tarantula. And if you fear heights, don't look down. So one thing I learned is, whatever fear or phobia you have, to get rid of it, simply cut the legs off from the bed.